Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trip Lunch Podcast. It is fantastic to be here again on episode 70-something. I haven't actually checked.
I don't actually
72.
It'll be on the it'll be on the thing.
Like
It'll be
check.
you'll have a look at it. It'll be
the
it'll
new
be there.
episode would have come out today.
Yeah, exactly right. No,
can
it's fantastic. We are. My name is Ethan, and this is Braden,
Hey.
and we are joined by our lovely guest Tina. Hello.
Hi, how
Welcome.
are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
That's
For a
fantastic.
Friday,
Yeah. You've taken. You've run across the road from work.
Yeah.
To come and hang out with us. Thank you very
I
much.
strolled across.
Strolled across,
Picked up
yes.
some nappies on the way. And
Yeah, the essentials.
yeah,
It's
not for
important.
me, for my kids.
Yeah, it's a really important clarification.
That's it, yeah.
Yep. Oh, fantastic. All right. Well, how we like to start all these podcasts is with a question. And that question is, how do you like your hot chips?
Okay, so I'm ashamed to admit, but I'm one of those people that likes loads and loads of chicken salt
Yes.
on the chips.
There is no shame here.
No,
No.
that's.
I just wish you said it while Joel was here.
Oh no, I listened to my husband's podcast and
yeah.
he puts all spices and paprika and all
Oh,
that. and
yes,
I'm
but he's
just-
fancy.
That's right. I told
Yeah.
him that yesterday, but no, I'm pretty plain. Just love the chicken salt, really.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. But see, that's not plain. That's
No.
more exciting than Joel's
Plain salt.
heathen plain salt.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you can't get chicken salt that easily. It's a delicacy.
Yeah, exactly.
so-
Exactly. It's a delicacy.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste the same if it's at home.
That's true.
No,
No, it's way better when you're out and about.
Yeah.
absolutely.
A question
the
that
hug.
Joel's been asking recently, so I'll
Yes.
steal and look smart.
Yeah, no.
Do you have any memory that's associated with hot chips?
Yeah.
Getting hot chips?
Me,
Yeah.
probably. So when I went to school, I grew up in Western Sydney, so I'm a massive Westie.
Yeah.
And we used to have to do sport. We have to walk a long way to do sport.
Oh, yeah.
And I hate sport. I'm terrible at it. And so I never used to look forward to this, except for the fact that we used to be able to stop at the chip shop on the way
Yeah.
back and get some hot chips. And we'd all
Excellent.
basically sit there and share
Yeah.
some hot chips and it'd be smothered in chicken salt.
Awesome.
And yeah, so that's the highlight there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. What was your local growing up? What was the chip shop called?
I don't remember, to be honest. I see my dad would always go out and get stuff.
Yeah.
He'd call it the milk bar. I don't know
Okay.
where it
Yep.
was.
Yep.
It was some, mythological milk bar somewhere on some corner in Blacktown. But so he would go and come back with chips and
Fantastic.
that's all I remember.
That's the dream. Braden, do you want to ask our next
Second
question?
Why are you talking like?
What?
You can tell the Friday afternoon podcast because we're just a little bit
A little bit
loopy.
loopy. A little bit loopy.
Tina, how did you become a Christian?
Okay, so I can't actually remember. Ooh, it's flatlining.
You set a timer instead of.
I'm with a stopwatch. Apparently, I also set a timer. That's cool.
Okay, all right. It's given me some time to think. So basically, I can't actually pin it to one particular time. I sort of grew up in the church. My family's Christian, so, I've been going to church since I was in utero, basically. And I can remember a few times as a child sort of asking God to come into my heart. But I was always never sure if he had or not, so I'd ask again in a couple of weeks and then again in a couple of weeks, and I think I was 8 or 9 years old, something like that. So it definitely wasn't sort of a road to Damascus moment or anything. It was kind of a, I'm here and I believe this and I want to be part of it. And so that was, nothing profound, but just made that decision on my own, sitting in one of the really hard pews at our Baptist church.
Which Baptist church was it?
So it was Blacktown Baptist Church. So I went there for nearly 20 years, with my mum and dad. Every Sunday, and my dad was involved in everything. He was music, he was kids' church, he was the secretary, he was the treasurer. So we'd be there until probably 12 o'clock every day after the morning service and then go back at night. So,
So you're growing up in a Christian family,
Yep.
in a Baptist church. That's really exciting, and you've got all these people around you that are Christians. What was school like?
So school was, again, Christian school. So again, K to 12 school. So I only went to the one school, which was Tyndale Christian School in Doonside. So yeah, again, it was kind of all I knew. And yeah, like I don't have bad things to say about school. Like I actually enjoyed my time at school. So yeah, it was a pretty good experience. Yeah, and it was good to feel supported by the teachers and staff, and knew that they supported what I believed, and loved God, and that made a big difference.
What was your favourite subject at school?
I have to say it was either music or business studies.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
my teacher liked me in business studies.
Okay,
so
I was like, I know why you would like music.
Like I'm trying to find a reason to like business studies.
So no, I quite like business studies, and then music. You know, I just enjoy music. So I think you do well at what you enjoy what you do well at, and you do well at what you enjoy, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
So you sing? Have you been singing forever?
No, so I only started singing when I was like late teens.
Okay.
So I've been playing the clarinet since I was 8. So that's my main instrument.
Do you still dabble in the clarinet?
Yeah, so I picked it up the other day actually. Although all my kids are like, can we have a turn? I'm like, yuck, no. And also I'm very protective of my instrument. But
It's not the family clarinet.
No.
yeah, no, it's not something you share around, especially post-COVID, you know what I mean? So I've been doing that like forever, and I did my HSC music and clarinet, and you know, unfortunately though, it's not the kind of instrument that a lot of people go, hey, you play clarinet, join the band.
Yeah.
And so that was part of the problem, and getting involved in church music. My dad said one day, do you want to sing? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll give it a crack. And so that's just where that came from. So yeah, and then I've just been doing that in various churches ever since. So
That's very cool.
What did your dad play?
So he plays guitar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he plays the House of the Rising Sun quite well.
Weekend Rockstar?
Yeah, well, I don't know. He used to play that ad nauseum. So,
awesome.
and then only later on in my life did I realise what those lyrics were actually about. So I was like, okay. But but yeah, no, he was a guitar player, so he would kind of accompany me and that kind of thing. So yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So
that's fantastic. So what, as you're kind of going through life as a young Christian woman who she's singing at church, she's playing the clarinet, not at church, but everywhere else.
In my bedroom.
That's it. Just rocking out. That's great. What kind of came next, like in life as
Well, so I decided to go to uni after school, and I think that's when life changed in a sense that. So I grew up in a Christian family, went to church, went to youth group, went to Christian school. It was all very insular. It was very much a bubble. And I think when I got to uni, I was like, whoa, there's this whole world out there that I never knew existed, and all these political parties and people that, you know, believe different things. And I don't think I was ever really exposed to that. So I was kind of like, wow, you know. And then a year into my uni degree, not even a year actually, I met my first husband. So, and then life really changed after that. So, yeah.
Can I do a quick zoom back? Ethan is a youth missions person.
Yes.
As a youth group leader as well. Favorite youth night? We're always trying to like steal ideas.
Oh yeah, true. That's a great
We're trying
question.
to steal ideas for. Do you have a favorite youth group night or memory from that?
Oh, so we had a really tiny youth group, and it was called Pigs, and I can't remember why. It was PYGS. It was something like something in youth, God, I don't know I can't remember what it stood for, but it was called the Pigs.
That's amazing.
So it was quite small. But because it was small, we could go out and, you know, go bowling and things like that. Awesome. And, you know, we just kind of muck around in our church hall. And, so I think the best nights were the nights where you just sort of hung out and just talked to your friends and
that's awesome.
Mucked around. So
Pigs is such a great name.
Yeah, I just can't remember what it stands for. I wish I could
change
remember.
the name of our youth group right now. We're Pigs now. That's so funny. I'm trying to find what the P stands for.
Yeah, I can't think of what
I was
the P-
like people or like I can't remember.
Like, is it even a sentence?
it
Like
was
people, youth, God.
PYGS, so I
yeah.
can't.
It's like youth group or something.
Yeah.
Like this YG.
Yeah,
but I'm trying to
yeah.
think of
Yeah.
what P would be.
Where was it? It's Blacktown.
Blacktown Baptist, but this we're talking like a long time ago now. So
If anyone wants to put in the comments below what they think.
What do you
PGYS stands
seeing as
for.
I can't even remember, I'm sure someone will be right.
Progressive youth group? No,
No,
probably
definitely
not.
not.
Pollard youth group, Presbyterian
Pollard
youth.
Park.
But that's the thing is just like,
Yeah.
what is it? Peace youth group? Pig. That's that's a Lutheran church. That's a real thing. There's lots of youth groups that is called pigs.
There you go.
Goolong Presbyterian. I'm trying to.
Surely they're like PYGS.
Yeah,
Like-
they don't
Yeah,
say
that's what
pigs,
ours
right?
was too. But I just can't remember what they all. I just remember having a shirt that we had our own
Yeah.
shirts,
Ah,
and they had
yes.
little pigs on them and
that's
PYGS.
Oh, that's great. Just
So-
leaning into it. That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's so
That's
cool.
it. Yeah.
That is
Very fun.
truly excellent. Thank you for rewinding that.
Sorry,
that was
I-
really
yeah.
no.
That's
That's
really
that's
selfish.
important information. That's beautiful.
Do we want to wind forward?
Yes, sorry.
Like-
Yes,
like a
let's
VCR?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's wind. Let's
All
wind
good.
forward. Where do we wind back
Uni.
from? You're at uni. It's all new and different.
Yeah, all different and crazy.
What part of that was challenging? Like,
I think for the first time, I kind of questioned God's role in my life, and I think the problem with growing up in a Christian family, going to a Christian school, is that it kind of just becomes something that we do, and you don't really question your faith. It's just
Yeah.
we go to church on Sunday. It's just what we do, and we pray before we eat. It's just what we do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it becomes a bit routine and a bit rote. And so I think when I got out into the world, it was like, oh, okay, do I actually need God? Like there's so many different people out there and different support groups and networks. And I'm being exposed to different worldviews for the first time in my life. And because, like I kind of grew up in that time where the internet was just kind of starting to come in. I still remember MS-DOS and playing Snake and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was like I couldn't get on Google and kind of discover things like, our encyclopedias were still paper and things like that. So for the first time, I think there was different worldviews and I was able to question what I believed. But I was also an adult and I was free to almost do what I wanted.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a challenge. And I think I did kind of go my own way for a few years and then decide, later on down the track, realised, oh, this is why I need God in my life. So
yeah. Well, if you don't mind me asking, what does go your own way for a few years look like?
I ended up getting married quite young. So my ex-husband is quite a bit older than me, so almost 14 years older than me, which my kids love to tease me about now. But he was very much in the world and knew a lot about the world, and I was 18 and knew nothing. And so for me it was, I think, putting my trust in people rather than putting my trust in God, and going down that path. So and no shade on my ex-husband, we get along really well and I think we're doing a decent job of co-parenting, so definitely not throwing him under the bus, but it was quite a big decision and so
Absolutely. Which uni were you at?
Macquarie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what were you doing at uni?
I was doing marketing and demographics, but I didn't actually finish. I did 2 years.
Okay. Yeah.
And then my ex said, I really want to run a restaurant. And I was obviously, I was very wise. And I said, okay. And, I don't need a degree for that. And so I left uni, which I've kicked myself for every single year since. But I went off and studied hospitality and did a bunch of courses. And
Did you start a restaurant?
We bought one
Okay.
that was owned by his parents, so we bought that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
After I worked in restaurants for a few years. We bought the restaurant off his parents, which he still runs today.
Oh, wow.
And I still do the bookkeeping for today. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so I work for both of my husbands, basically.
Nice.
But yeah, so we did that, and that went all right, I suppose.
What type of restaurant is
Yeah.
it?
What are you making?
Pizza. It was pizza.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, so
good.
pizzeria restaurant. I did mostly the back of house stuff though, so
okay.
bookkeeping, payroll.
Yeah. Right.
Not
all of
rolling pizzas.
No, I had kids to look after. I had little
Yeah.
ones, and there was a nighttime business, so
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah,
be
okay.
in there, and
Yeah.
I had to stay home with the kids and do all that sort of stuff. So
I was just picturing starting a life of just like spinning pizzas. You know, in the movies
Oh,
where they, like,
yeah,
do all the
no,
spinning?
no.
That's most of it, isn't it? Isn't that most of the
I would've
pizza
dropped
life
most of
is
them.
just like spinning pizzas? Yeah.
a lot of cleaning, actually.
Yeah, no, fair.
a lot of cleaning.
Yeah, because all the guys spinning pizzas keep dropping them.
That's right.
Oh, fantastic. So what was it about that time that made you realize, oh, I need to think about God again? Like what was that shift, do you reckon?
I think it was just needing some guidance.
Yep.
And so my ex-husband's not a Christian. I thought he was when we got married, but it turns out he wasn't. And so I had to make the decision to keep going to church, even though I was going alone. And so it was a lot easier sometimes to not have, to not go, because
Yeah.
having to drag 3 little kids along on your
of
own
course.
was difficult, but I found that I did need the community of other Christians. Because I've always considered myself a bit of a solitary person, which is funny because I am in a family of 8 people at the moment, and I still like my own space, which makes things difficult. But
My room, my clarinet,
oh yeah, that's right,
my space.
my bathroom.
Yeah, excellent.
No, there's no more but my bathroom anymore.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so it was challenging, and like I said, I'm a person that I've always considered myself to be very solitary. I don't need anyone's help. I can survive on my own. I won't accept charity off people. And I think going through that time where, my husband was working 6 nights a week. A lot of the time wasn't home during the day. So a lot of the time it was just me and the kids. And church was really the only sort of place where I could be around other people. And I think just, again, learning to accept grace from other people was a big thing, because I've traditionally been like, no, I'm okay. Like, I'm doing all right. It's you that needs help. I'll help you. And it's hard for me to accept help coming back the other way. So I think it sort of taught me more about grace and what grace means.
Yeah.
And it's something, my husband Drew, current husband, forever husband, if he's listening, is also, trying to help me with as well. It's that idea of what is grace, and you need to, God gives you the gift, but you also need to accept it.
Yeah.
And I always had no issues giving the gift to other people, but I was always too proud to accept it. So I think when I was on my own pretty much in those years, it was, a big thing to realise that I actually do need God. I can't do this on my own. And so.
Were there any particular like moments or people that helped you go, like, or that extended grace to you, that you were like, oh my goodness, this is amazing, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I had she's still a friend, a friend at my old church who, was just someone that would talk to me, and especially when that marriage broke down, she was very available to talk through everything that had happened, helping me to make sense of things. Obviously, divorce is one of those issues in the church or in Christianity in general that, I kind of went through it thinking I'm now scarred for life, and I am, I've got the letter A on me or whatever it is. So she helped me through that experience, which was really helpful. So, I think that she was quite a pivotal person in that, and just being involved in my music teams that I was in just helped keep me going. There was some purpose, and so.
Was that the same church that you were at originally?
No, so I was at Blacktown Baptist Church. Then when I got married, moved to Glenbrook Baptist Church, so Lower Blue Mountains.
Yeah.
And
less pigs at Glenbrook.
Yeah, less pigs there. And speaking of people that helped, there was a friend there she's still a really close friend today, and she's had her fair share of hardship as well. So it has been helpful having her walk alongside me, and I met her at Glenbrook, so that was 20 years ago now.
Yeah, wow.
So I went there for a few years, and then basically my parents moved to Quakersill Anglican from Blacktown Baptist, and they said, why don't you try the Anglican church? And my vision of Anglican church was robes and smoke and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, okay. And they're like, no, it's actually, it's you'll find it's really good and all of that. So I ended up moving to Glenmore Park Anglican Church, because we were then living in Glenmore Park, so suburb near Penrith, and I went there for 10 years, and that was the last church I was at before I came here. So
lovely.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find youth group names. Glenbrook Baptist is just called their youth group.
Yeah.
And no, it's Grace West.
Yeah, it's Grace West.
It is Grace West now.
It's changed its name.
Well, that's now changed again. Oh yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Now gracewest.church.
I can't keep up.
I can't find it. I'll find it one day.
They got a couple of church plants now too.
Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Youth.
I think it was just called Youth.
It's also just called Youth.
Yeah. Nothing too inspiring.
Nothing.
No pigs.
No pigs.
It sounds like it's not trademarked. We could probably
change.
We've touched a little bit on some new characters entering. Some smaller characters at this point, I'm guessing. Now bigger. How is it becoming a mother, and how did that change your relationship with God and as a Christian? How did that help?
Oh, okay. Hang on.
That was like two massive questions smushed together. So let's break it down. So just becoming a mother, and so I kind of became a mum earlier than a lot of other people. So I think I was 23 when I was 23 when I had my own child. I actually had a stepchild before that. So my first husband had a son. Yeah.
Who was 7 when I met him.
Ah, okay.
So I pretty much became a stepmom at 18.
Oh, wow.
So, and he had some health issues, some chronic health issues that I was quite involved with. So there was that. And then at 23, I got pregnant with my first daughter, who's Scarlett, who's now 14 and a half. So quite a lot younger than a lot of my friends my age. So I found that I did drift away from a lot of friends because they were still able to go out on Friday nights and do this and that, and I couldn't. So, which is funny, they're all now having babies or have young children, and I always thought, I'll be having teenagers and sleeping all night when you guys have your young kids. Now I've got young kids as well. So I've gone right back to the beginning. But how did it change my relationship with God? I think it sort of made me see God as a parent, but not more as a sort of what to emulate for parenthood. And in a situation where, because my husband wasn't home a lot of the time, he worked nights, I sort of had to be mum and dad a lot of the time, which I've actually found is difficult. I'm a bit traditional in the sense that I do believe in the roles that God has assigned for men and women, and so I think it is hard for me with discipline. I don't feel it comes naturally to me. So that was, discipline and consistency
like my husband, Drew, is great at it, and I'm happy to support him, and he's fantastic and he can hold the line. But I found, when I had my 3 little girls, I'm like, it's all on me to set the boundaries. And so I found myself going back to God and, through other authors. So I remember going to Coorong. We had a Coorong Books in Penrith, so nice and convenient at the time. And I'd get all these different books on parenting because, you go to a normal bookshop and there's different views on parenting and I'm like, they don't really align with what I want. I want to try and bring these kids up to know God and how am I going to do that? And I think God does set out a really good blueprint for parenting in the Bible, and so I tried as much as I could to follow that. But I think just knowing that I'm now responsible in a sense for these kids getting to know God was a bit of a, like, oof. And then having to examine my own behaviour as well and go, am I a good example? So I think, and that's still an ongoing thing today, obviously. Was
there anything from reading all those books or from your own personal experience, like there's a lot, how many, like we name and list all your kids first, actually?
Yeah, sure. I just got to remember them all. They won't ever listen to this, so it's okay. So Scarlett's the oldest. So she is 14 and a half. Then after that is Ivy, who's 12. She'll be 13 in about 3 weeks. Awesome. Which she reminds me constantly.
Very exciting.
Yes, very exciting. And then there's Allegra, who is 11. There's Teddy, who's 9. I've got Serafina, who's 2, and Jessie, who's just turned 10 months.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
That's wild.
It's full on.
So with 6 kids.
Yep.
Was there anything from those books or from your personal experience that any tips that you've taken away or things to remember?
So I think the biggest thing that stuck with me is that we're not raising kids, we're raising adults. And the goal is not to keep them dependent, it's to grow them into independence. That doesn't mean I let my 2-year-old catch the bus on her own, but that does mean
Be
that...
a funny sight though, wouldn't
well,
it?
yeah, and she probably would too. But,
independent.
Yeah, oh yeah. Actually, no, it's the boy. He's the one that my parents looked after him the other day, and I had to warn my dad before I left for work. I'm like, if he knows the door is ajar, he will crawl outside. And they kind of laughed, and then a minute later, he's outside.
That's awesome.
I said, he's like a dog. When they want to get out of the yard, he's like that. So,
that's super funny.
Yeah, but I think it's about looking at where you want them to end up, and not creating an environment where they can't think for themselves, they can't help themselves and look after themselves. And I think it is more difficult now because I think we know more about predators and, dangers and things like that. But at the same time, it's important to give them a bit of rope. And I've found personally, my kids have really responded to having that trust. And I always say to them, I'm going to trust you the first time. So one of them wanted to go to Cronulla on the train with a friend. And I said, okay, I'm going to let you go the first time. You got to have your location settings on. And you got to, answer my messages when I message. But I will give you the trust this time. If you stuff up, then it's your fault that you can't go next time. But I want to give you that trust. I want you to prove me wrong or prove me right, whatever. And she did it. Went to Cronulla, had a great time, came home, messaged me, told me where she was no issue at all.
Awesome.
She then asked the next week, can I go to Central Station at 7:00 at night and catch the train to my dad's who lives in Blaxland? I said no. Little bit by little bit.
That's a big step, right?
I'm not letting you go, not Central Station at night, but I think it helped her to feel like I'm being trusted. I think sometimes it's easy to go, no, you're going to stuff up. I'm not going to, So... so I think it's helpful to have that approach and just and the other thing as well I think I got was I'm raising somebody's partner, somebody's wife. what kind of a partner are they going to be for whoever they end up marrying? And they might not marry, it's up to them, their choice. But who am I giving to somebody one day? And so that's been a really sobering thing as well, just thinking about, what kind of partner are you going to be? Are you going to be somebody who is loving and sacrificial and kind, but also somebody who can stand up for themselves, who can advocate for themselves? So that's also, so I like to think towards adulthood because I know my state is temporary. So, yeah.
What in particular do you reckon informed that idea and practice or anything like that? Or is behind it?
I think I'm not going to name. How do I do this? So I think as I've gone through adulthood, seeing a lot of relationships break down, marital relationships. Christian and non-Christian, so friends, family, whatnot. I went through the divorce care program.
Okay.
So obviously met a lot of people that had gone through divorce through that as well. And I think it was realising the impact of parenting on people's marriages and how they impacted marriages. And that was actually a real...
Their parenting or the way they were parented?
The way they were parented,
Okay. Right, okay.
And look, every parent makes mistakes. I'm not the authority on parenting. I'm as guilty of, all of the wrongs as anybody else. So I definitely don't have it all right and don't know everything, that's for sure. But I just realised the impact of family trauma, family patterns, dysfunctional behaviours on people and how that affects them throughout their entire life. So I think that's been one of the things that I've really been aware of, when I parent my own kids. And so...
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I don't know if I've made any sense there.
No, that was really good. It made a lot of sense. Do you have any thoughts, Braden?
On parenting? Not especially.
Heaps, I'm sure you have heaps, Braden. Well, if not, any other questions or?
Sorry. You make me laugh sometimes.
What?
You're right. I am naturally hilarious.
Yes, of course. So we've kind of maybe we'll skip ahead a little bit. So you're divorced. What kind of do you do next? Like, where do you move? You've got 3 young kids as well.
Yep.
Like, what was happening for you at that point?
So I didn't move anywhere. I stayed in my house.
The way you said that, for those of you not watching on YouTube, the facial expression there was also great. I can go anywhere.
I stayed in my home. I had the kids more. And as I said, it was a fairly amicable
of course.
separation. And I said, look, despite what's happened between us, don't want it affecting the kids. We need to put our business to the side, parent the kids. And he's been a fantastic ex-husband, I have to say. So we get along really well. So, when that all happened, there wasn't any tension. I knew he wasn't going to take me to court. We kind of agreed what we were going to do financially and had settled that fairly amicably. So it was a fairly, wasn't that tumultuous a time, but just getting used to the new normal, so to speak. So, and then I was like, I'm 33, I think I was. And, I was sitting there going, what do I do next? And I think I had my view of God had always been, he's judging me, he's angry with me, he's going to zap me or, and I think that's why when I became a Christian, I'd prayed so many times going, maybe God didn't hear me the first time. I don't know if I'm saved. I'll just do it again just to be sure. And I think my anxiety got the better of me. And I'd always seen God as this kind of judgmental, angry, and that might have been being brought up in the fire and brimstone type era, whereas now it's all love and, it's kind of the opposite. But
I think I was going, I'm divorced. I can't ever remarry. I have to stay single. I have to be by myself. This is my new normal and it's sinful for me to remarry. And I was reading a whole bunch of stuff on that, which can be dangerous because if you get on the internet, you don't know where the source is and there's so many conflicting views. Yeah. And it was that lady from church who sat down with me, and I remember her saying, because I was confusing guilt and shame. She's like, look, when you sin, you ask God to forgive you, and He forgives you. But it's the devil that keeps you in that shame pattern, and he wants you to feel bad for this sin. But she's like, God doesn't want to punish you for the rest of what do you, if you are, I'm trying to explain how she explained it to me because she's a lot more eloquent than I am. But the way she explained it was, God has forgiven you. If you sit there and go, well, I'll never remarry, it's like you are punishing yourself continuously for what has happened. So yeah, I kind of was forced to think about that sort of stuff. And then I think after that, I was like, yeah, I think I do want to get remarried. But at this time, has to be to a Christian person. That's really important. So there were a couple of frogs that came along. So we had a few, there's a couple of bumpy times, but then I met Drew after that. So
lovely.
Yeah.
Where did you meet Drew?
Online, actually. Yeah, I had 3 kids. I wasn't going out anywhere.
Yeah, no fair.
Hitting up the nightclubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard. Like it's hard being a Christian and dating, especially when you've got kids. Because a lot of the time, and I had this experience in my previous church where there was another guy who was single, and it was kind of like, hey, I'm single and you're single. I'm like, yeah, but I don't like you like that. Just because we're both single Christians doesn't mean we have to get married. So, it was kind of like that. So I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to find anyone here. Yeah. And I don't want to go church hopping just for the point of dating. Yeah. So,
Wise.
Let's go online. And I'd actually never dated before, ever. Yeah. So, because I met my ex-husband at an ice skating rink, out of all places.
Wild.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, this is a new...
Campbelltown ice skating rink?
No, Macquarie. Because I used to go skating there in my uni breaks. So
in your uni breaks?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That is actually so cool.
Yeah, literally. Very cool.
Hey.
But yeah, so I just tried the online dating thing and, told my parents. They weren't too thrilled. But I said, it's almost like it's like a shopping list. I want this and I want this and I want this. And I can put it out there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll put it out there that I got kids.
Yep.
So if they don't like that, they don't have to click on me. It's easy,
Exactly right.
So, yeah.
It's not one of those things you have to bring up on the 3rd date. And just kind of like...
No, that's right. Yeah. So I'm just like, this is what I got. So...
Yeah. That's great.
Cool. So how was your first, if you'd never dated before,
Yeah.
I'm very interested.
Yeah. How's your first date?
Who suggested where to go? Yeah. Where did you go?
It was all Drew. He was very much, so the way it all came about was basically I was on eHarmony. I'd been on there for about 6 months and I'd met this guy through another Christian dating site because I was obviously, putting my options around,
of course.
So I met this guy.
Exit a few baskets.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely lovely. But I was like, no, I'm just not feeling the spark. And after about 6 dates, I said to him, you know what? I think we need to... I said, I don't want to waste your time, okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
And the funny thing was both of us, the next person we ended up dating, both of us ended up marrying. And we're still kind of loose friends today over Facebook. So
that's great.
But anyway...
that's awesome.
Yeah. So the way I met Drew was I'd basically after that, I'm like, look, I just need to sort out my personal life a little bit. I'm gonna delete the app. I just need a bit of space. But I deleted the app, but you still get the spam coming through. And I remember one day my parents...
emails and stuff.
You'd get, but they'd come through to your spam folder. And I remember my parents coming round one day, and my mum used to hate when I'd be on my phone because it was rude, you know, being on your phone when you got company. Yeah. And I was like, I just want to scroll.
You don't count.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm like, I'm just going to go to the toilet and I'll just sit there and scroll my phone. So I went to the bathroom. My fix. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I'm scrolling through, and this spam email came up. I'm like, have you seen this new member, Drew? I'm like, oh yeah, he's all right. I'm like, but he's got a beard. I'm not into beards. So anyway, I clicked on it. I'm like, he's 33. Like, I've got 3 kids. He's not going to want to borrow me. Went into his profile and saw he had a daughter. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, I'd never ever messaged a person first, but this time I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to send him a smile. You only live once and all that stuff. So I'm just going to do it, throw the phone and run out of the room. Awesome. And basically I opened up the message just as I'm about to send him a smile. He messaged me at that exact time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. And then we just started talking, and he used to play the saxophone. So I'm like, oh my gosh. We both play really dorky instruments. That's fantastic. So
read section.
Yeah, that's right. And we just started talking, and he set up the first date, and
What did he set up?
Yeah. We went to the Strawberry Hills Hotel. Ooh. Yeah. So, and he'd already ordered me a beer before I got there.
Do you
my favourite beer?
That's convenient.
It's like, you like me?
Yeah. Oh no, I love beer. He ordered me a drink, and we just started talking, and that was it basically. So
amazing.
Yeah, it was good.
Very cool. Who asked who? How did he ask you to marry?
Yeah, so I kind of knew it was coming. He's like, I'm just gonna, like, it was New Year's Eve, and he's like, I'm just gonna take you down to like this beach, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, and I'm just trying to, I knew what was happening.
Whoa!
No, we'd actually already booked our wedding before he asked me to marry him.
What, like the venue?
Yeah, we'd already.
That's so funny.
We'd already booked it.
Clock's ticking.
Yeah.
It's like he's gonna ask me at some point.
That's it.
That's
so
super funny.
We're like, well, we know it's going to be like a good 6 months to a year to get a booking at any venue.
Yeah.
So let's just do it now. Lock it in.
That's super
Not
funny.
tell anybody. But then when we get engaged, we've got this place we booked.
That's so good.
And I'm glad we did, because the next year was COVID and we wouldn't have been able to get married.
Oh, true.
So.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah. So it was good timing.
What struck you about Drew?
So the thing about Drew, I think what I learned from my first marriage and sort of dating experience in that little kind of time in between was that there's a heart response and a head response. And a lot of the time, I can get deep and psychological here, but there was...
do it, let's go.
Yeah, no. Sort of, I was attracted to people that would probably not they wouldn't treat me very well, basically. Right. They'd string me along, they wouldn't be consistent. But it was this roller coaster of, you'd get really excited to get a message from them, then they wouldn't message you again for a week, and it was that real roller coaster. Yeah. And then when he came along and he was planning dates, let's get together then, and we'll get together then. I'm like, you're keen? Like, you're not making me wait. You're telling me how you feel? Like, this is weird. I'm used to someone literally stringing me along for a year and not actually ever saying that I was anything to them. And then here's this guy going, I'd really like to make it official. I'm like, but we've only been seeing each other for 4 weeks. Like, how can you know? And so I think with him, I remember having a conversation with him where I was like, I know this is really unromantic, but I think we have to be logical about this. And
you said this or he said this?
Both of us did. We'd both been married before. Obviously, both of them didn't work out for various reasons. And we'd identified this, that we had certain deficiencies in ourselves that we were looking for another person to fulfill. And this time, I'm like, you know what? And he knows about all of this. I'm like, I don't actually feel that spark for you like I have with other people. But I said, it's never worked out with anyone else. Maybe I actually have to be a bit smarter, and you're different and I'm not used to that. So let's just give it a go and see where it goes. I said, but we have 4 kids between us. This can't be motivated by feelings. It has to be, is this right? Is this going to work? Do we have the same values, the same views?
Yeah.
You know, so it was almost like a sort of Old Testament kind of more of a covenant relationship at first than an overly romantic one. But obviously as time's gone on, the romance has followed, and you know, and obviously
there's something very beautiful about that.
And it sounds really, really unromantic, but it was like we've both failed miserably. We now have kids, and we can't put the kids through that again. And I was really adamant about that. And he had expressed that he really wanted to have more children. And I was like, yeah, I could have more. I could stay with what I've got. I'm okay. And I said, yeah, but I'm not putting more kids through another divorce.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, you almost like laid... It sounds topsy-turvy, but it's actually like you've laid everything down on the values, on your values, on your ideas and what you thought. And then, that's a pretty strong foundation. Like, it sounds topsy-turvy, but it's like that's essential to any kind of relationship, whether it's
definitely
a marriage relationship or any kind of relationship. I think it's actually really smart. It might not be the Disney way of doing it, but
and it really wasn't. I said, look, I don't know if I'm necessarily massively attracted to you. And, you know, I am now, definitely, don't get me wrong. But it was like, okay, we actually just have to, you know, pare this back and go, are we in the same place? Have you realised what has happened in your marriage and taken ownership for what you did? And even in relationships where it's 90% the other person, you still have ownership. Even if you just enabled them to be the way they were, you still have to take ownership for how you were. And he definitely has made steps to adjust the way he was the first time. I've made steps to adjust how I was the first time. And I'm like, you've got to take something from it, and, you know. But it was more like, we see marriage as a covenant. It's not based on love and based on feelings first. It's, are we good for each other? Are we going to create a solid foundation for our family? Do we put each other first? Everything else flows out from that. And the romance has followed that. So, I found it worked. So
it's a beautiful testament to the power of a promise, of just like, I promise that, like, if we stick to this, it'll work. Like, and we're going to make it work. And we're going to overcome the stuff that we need to overcome. And we're going to do that together. But we know what we need to overcome. And sure, there's going to be new stuff, and there's going to be different stuff, and there's
going to be football every weekend.
Exactly right. But
I've watched so much football.
but at the same time, it's this beautiful reality of but we're going to stick with this, and we're going to do that because we've promised it, and we figured it out, and it's that covenant idea of and acknowledging first that we're not perfect in that is so much of it. Is like, I'm not gonna do this perfectly, and you're not gonna do this perfectly.
That's it.
But let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if we don't like each other, we've still promised. You know.
No, that's really, really beautiful.
So you've got a blended family then.
Yeah.
How's that been, figuring that and navigating that with Drew?
So I think obviously there's unique challenges with blended families. On the whole, I think we've done pretty well. You know, my girls, they like to talk smack about him. I sound really old fashioned when I say that, but they like to tease him and make fun of him, but they do really connect with him and love him.
That's really cool.
And I found the same with Teddy, who I consider my daughter as well. You know, we don't do things by halves in our family. It's been difficult in the sense that my 3 are all biological siblings, and introducing a 4th one into the mix has been difficult, especially when the kids when they're raised in essentially 3 environments as well. There's their dad's place, our place, and then Teddy's mum's place.
Yeah.
And all 3 houses are different with different rules and different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
That can be challenging because there's almost like a, well, if you do that in that house, that's what you do in that house, but in this house, you know. So there's been challenges around that, and just you know, my 3 are there 6 days a week. Teddy's kind of half, like 50% of the time. So again, it's also just trying to integrate her into the family, and then we had the little ones as well, which I honestly thought, oh, they're all going to get their noses out of joint, but they've been really great with them. So that's been really nice to see how much really they love the little ones, even though they can get annoying at times, but you know, they really do love them. So, but yeah, I think what kind of underpins all of that is, you know, we kind of said early on, we put each other first, me and Drew, not, you know, we come, like, we're each other's number one, then the kids flow on from that. And a lot of people, if you say that to them, oh no, the kids come first. Kids will always be first. Partners come and go. Like, well, the idea is that your partner doesn't come and go. But I'm like, you actually love the children by loving your spouse and by supporting my husband when he needs to make decisions or discipline. They know I back him, and so they can't undermine him. They can't get around it. And they've learnt to respect him and his authority. It also does mean if there's times where I think he's been a bit unfair or he thinks I've been a bit unfair, we kind of take each other up to the side and go, hey, look, you know, you may be a bit harsh when you said that. So it's not like the kids don't get someone speaking for them, but I do find that having that solid foundation helps them feel safe. And we have had a couple, we don't argue very often, but the couple of times there's been a bit of tension. I have had my kids come go, are you guys going to break up? Are you okay? And so they really do get, when they see that something's going on, they really do like, oh, and as much as they whinge and complain, they don't want anything happening to their family. So, so yeah, like obviously there has been challenges when you bring ex-partners in. There's always going to be difficulties, and you got 4 sets of grandparents as well, which also brings difficulties. But you know, for the most part, we just treat them all equally, and we're all one family, and you know, that's what we do. So it's not really perfect all the time, but
that's really cool. Well, we've been talking for a little while now. And I think we're going to probably run out of time on the cameras in a sec.
Can I ask one question?
You can ask one question.
How did you end up at Soli's? So you withdrew.
I'm walking away just to check the cameras.
So it was Drew. So basically, when I was with him at the time, he was at St. John's Anglican Church, I think it is.
I don't know.
In Sutherland.
St. John's.
St. John's. And he, at the time, only had Teddy on Thursday, Fridays and Saturdays. Didn't have her on Sundays at all. And he was like, she's not going to get to go to church at all if I don't find somewhere that I can take her on a Saturday. So he started looking around for a church that had services on a Saturday. So he came across Soli's. I was like, why not? Give it a go. And there's a few people, he'd been to a few churches in the area, so he knew a few other people that had migrated over here as well. So he started coming, and then we kind of started coming, and that's pretty much how it happened. And then we're here for about a year, then COVID happened.
That's very cool. We're actually fine. I got my estimate wrong. That's very exciting. That's how you ended up here. That's very cool. And then you guys, you're back at Kirrawee now, but you spent a little bit of time helping out at Yarrawarra.
Yeah, so we live in Engadine. So I think it was just kind of natural to ask us to get involved because we were like next suburb across, and that made a lot of sense. So so it's still at Yarrawarra technically. But Drew has now started to play football with a group of local guys who were kind of they'd come for breakfast at the caravan afterwards. And basically he was like, and he loves football. He really loves football. And he was like, oh, I can like play football with these guys and evangelize at the same time, and hopefully we'll maybe get them coming to church, not just coming for the breakfast. So he started doing that, and I found that with the 2 little kids it was a bit difficult on my own, because especially with the little one, he likes to crawl up to your dad and shake his microphone thingy and all of that. So I just was like, yeah, look, we'll come on Saturday nights, come back to Saturday nights, and and I'll go back to Sunday mornings once the little ones are a bit more manageable.
So
Awesome.
No, that's very exciting. That's really cool. Well, I think either way, I think it's good to ask this final question.
Yeah.
Because we kind of got up to now, which is fun.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you wish that the younger Christian Tina knew that you know now?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I think the importance of who you marry is such, I think next to becoming a Christian, it's the biggest decision you'll ever make. And it can really set the course for your entire life. And it's just, I don't think there's enough emphasis placed on that decision. And so I think if I'd gone back to when I was younger and gone, this is a huge decision, and it'll have a ripple effect, not just through your life, but through the kids' lives, I would have gone, oh, maybe I'll need to go back and think about this a little bit more. But at the time I was like, I just don't want to be alone anymore, even though I was 18 and had my whole life ahead of me. So I think that's probably what I would go back and tell my younger self. So yeah. And the importance of a Christian marriage. I'm not saying it can't work between Christians and non-Christians, but it is harder. Yeah. So I think, for me, that was a big one. So.
I've been married for a year now, just a little bit over, and it is 2 months over now.
Wow. So it's been that long. Wow.
So a year and a bit, and I've come away from this learning heaps actually, and I'm really encouraged by you, Andrew, and I. So I'm stoked, and I hope that people listening are taking on bits and pieces, and it's because it's really cool to for this podcast not only just to share one another's stories, and that's what just happened. That was a sharing of a story, but it was also we get to learn from each other, and we get to grow because of each other's experiences.
Definitely.
I think that's really beautiful, and so thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Do you have any final remarks, Brandon?
No, thanks so much, Tina, for coming and sharing your story. Drew has been on as well.
Yeah, I listened to his yesterday.
Notes, I don't think I was on Drew's.
Literally yesterday I listened to it.
I was on Drew's, I think.
Was he wearing a Dragons jersey?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm proud of him then.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone wants to compare notes on Drew and Tina, we've had them both on.
I don't know if he's going to listen to mine. I think he probably will. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, hi, Drew. You've made it all the way to the end. Good job.
I need to find who else was on it, but I'll find that after. What we're going to do now is I thought we'd wrap up the chips, and we end every episode with a one way. So if you could do it one way.
One way.